For God so loved the world. We reflect on God's love where we live. But how is His love being revealed in other parts of the world? Welcome to Word for the Week, Season 3, Episode 12. Join us in a conversation with our guests, Simon and Margaret Muhota. They are ministers, missionaries, educators, and caretakers of orphans, and a refugee-based community in Kenya. They are the founders and leaders of an amazing ministry called Abba's House. This is their story.
Well, it is a different thing. We're doing Word for the Week. This is something we do every Friday, and you're our first special guest. Usually it's Kathy and I, but so this is great. Kathy will add her a little bit of verbiage later, but just to let people know who you are, your backstory, I thought I'd let you do it. So Simon and Margaret Muhota, would you tell us a little of your backstory in your ministry?
I went to school in Western Kenya, and I was a good student. And so when I finished school there, I moved to Central Kenya, where I was born, so that I would have some work to do. But lo and behold, my older brother, who is from the second wife of my father, was a grown-up man. So he had a place where he was pastoring, and he asked us to go and work there. And so when I was working, that's where I found a place I could go and learn about God in a Bible school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to Bible school, I graduated in 1990, and I was given a church to pastor, and I pastored that church for 3 years. And then the Lord said, okay, you need to put up with your education. I was invited to come to Trinity International University in Illinois, and I did my undergraduate. But before that, I had graduated from Bible school. So after Trinity, I moved to North Park Seminary, where I did my master's.
And that was a master's in education, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also what we call MDiv.
Oh, you did an MDiv as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So
you're highly educated man.
Not really, but that's what God led us to do. Yeah. And when I was doing that, I was kind of tempted to stay in United States. Mm-hmm. But the Lord whispered to me that you need to go back and do the work I called you for. And that is to speak to the people at home and minister to them, because they are the people who need the gospel. America, yes, they need the gospel, but they have so many educated and also pastors and churches. And so we were able to move back, although our own friends who wanted to stay here told us, why are you going back? You need to stay. You can raise your family here. It's a good place. But the Lord insisted you have to go back. And even if I was given a job in Springfield, Illinois, to be a pastor there, and it worked well, I didn't go there because God insisted that I go back to Kenya and serve my people.
Yeah, and so people know, you talked about Mount Kenya, and of course in the central area of the country, but we are talking the country of Kenya as well. I love the way you put that last night in the study, that the fact that there's all kinds of people with a voice for God here. You needed to go back with that skill that you had and be the voice there, and it's a wonderful blessing that way. Now, Margaret as well, sitting there all quiet and everything, but you are pretty skilled yourself. You've been a nurse. You were a nurse. And the thing that struck me the most, there's two things that struck me the most. When you were in Kajabi Hospital, right? And you worked there, said one of the main things were you took care of the Maasai people who went out and messed with the lions. I thought, wow, that's somebody who knows about lion wounds. The second thing is could you tell me a little bit about the AIDS work you did previously? But you had really done quite a bit for that in Kenya, did you not?
Yeah, I did. When we went back to Kenya, year 2000, I went and helped in some of the schools and to talk about HIV/AIDS. By then, the HIV/AIDS was a lot in Kenya. But this day it has improved. So by then we would go to school and talk to the kids about HIV/AIDS, and that was mostly awareness to young, like class 7. By there we call class 7 and 8. Those were the kids that when I was doing it, we targeted to them. So that is what I did most of the times before we started Abba House.
Right.
So that is what I was doing.
Okay. And very impressive work. Did you go all over Kenya speaking in schools, or kind of in the region you were living?
I didn't go all over Kenya, but I went to around Kijabe, near the schools there, and around Naivasha, and we went to some of the schools there to teach with some of the missionaries ladies from Moffat Bible School.
You were even then talking about some things, but the next step for you down the road. And this brings us to the ministry at hand with everything, because you were talking on transitions with Abba's House. Essentially, just throw this out for context, basically an orphanage that has become something much more. But maybe the two of you could tell us each your side of the story. How did God move you into this type of ministry? Some backstory there of Abba's House.
Yeah, thank you. Abba's House started mysteriously from the Lord because we were in Kijabe. That's where I was pastoring. And in 2007, Kenya had what we call tribal clashes after elections. And so many people who had moved to many parts of Kenya and they were not from the tribe that was living wherever they were asked to move. And most of them were killed. In fact, about 1,000 people died that year. And so when they were forced to move out, wherever we were as a minister of the church, as a pastor, they came just below us in Rift Valley. And so they came to a church, and the church was just about half an acre. And 1,000 people or more came with their children, mothers and fathers, with nothing, because they were running from the violence. So when they came, we organized with the missionaries to give them water, to give them food, and a place to at least to sleep. And so they stayed there for about 3 weeks. And so that's when they were given a place to go and build a small huts. And before that, they were given tents by UNICEF. And so in that tent, they became very hot because Rift Valley down there was very hot. And so they were also given some money to build little homes for them. And that's where we were ministering to them, and the church was born from that.
Okay, just out of curiosity, they moved into this small area and you set something up. Are a number of people still in that area? Did they establish a community and stay there?
Yes. Okay. When they were given some few shillings to build a home, in fact, the organization helped them to build those small homes. Okay. So they stayed there because they had nowhere to go. Okay. Remember, as I said, they were chased away from where they were. Yeah. And so they came there and they had nowhere to go. So they built these small homes, and since then they have been there.
Okay, and so where Abba's house is right in the community, basically, or very, very close to this community of all these people. Right.
Well, the story is that when we had this violence and a camp was established and they were given money to build these small homes, we realized that young children had seen things that were traumatizing them. And so about 16 of them were elected, and we took them and prepared them to move to a new location where we are right now, near Naivasha.
Oh, okay. So then you said something more permanent, and that kind of brings us even closer to the whole Abba's house thing, because you're dealing with the community, but it's mainly a focus on children, and maybe for people here who don't quite understand what happens to children in these times of turmoil like that, what was it exactly that you said, well, we've got to target the children as far as we've got to work with these children? How did that evolve?
Well, the thing is, when they were running away, most of the kids were separated from their parents. And some parents were also killed. And so they came with others, and we found that about 3/4 of the group that we had, the parents are not there. They were killed. And so we realized that we need to help these kids. So we took them and started a home with them. Yeah.
When Abba's house started, then, so we have 2007. There's the turmoil, all this refugee community comes together. You see the need, then you discover the number of orphans, then you start taking care of the orphans. How soon in that process did you actually start building an orphanage? Did it take a year, 2 years? Did you start right away?
It was a slow process because it needed some finances to buy land and also to build a place where they can sleep and have food. And so it took us about 2 years before we had something for them. And when we finished, they came and they were happy to see beds and a place to eat and food to eat and a roof over their heads, because it was traumatizing for them what they saw in 2007.
Right. And from the pastor's standpoint, I can understand how that would have affected you. I wondered what tugged at your heartstrings the most in this, Margaret, where you're coming in a little bit different. You're a nurse. You've been working with young children in the AIDS education and all of that. What struck you in the heart the most when you saw this stuff going on in 2007?
When I saw those kids, we would visit before they came to Abba House. We brought them to Abba House. We would take food down at the valley where they were living. And then when I realized that some of the kids, they were not even having, they were having one meal a day. And when we took those food to those little kids, and because even some of the relatives or some of the grandmas, they also needed some food because they didn't have food. So when we took food there, we still realized that the food is being shared and it's done. So that's why Pastor Simon is saying we really wanted a home for them. But we prayed about it, and God opened the way, and we were able to build that home for them. We don't forget to thank this missionary lady who came from Canada, and we went down to the valley, and she was a missionary before in Kenya, but she moved to Canada. So when we went in there and she saw what was happening when we were feeding the kids, she was so touched, and some of the fund to buy the land, she gave it to the Abba House. So we appreciated about that. So when we brought the kids over 2013, the kids were really happy. We were so happy to see that these kids, they were eating just one meal a day, and now they are here in Abba House. We are able now to feed the kids. They can have porridge in the morning. At 10, they can have tea, lunch, and dinner. So it was good to see that now we are able to help these kids who didn't have they didn't have parents. So, and the other thing is to see that we are able to take them to school to have education. And it is very important when back home kids go to school, because if they don't go back to school, they will have no job when they become bigger because they have to go to school to learn something. They can be teachers, they can be doctors. So we are happy to see that now those kids can eat and they can have a place to sleep. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of incredible. One, it seems like a justice thing, because, like you say, if there was very little food and you're an orphan, people, they'll probably feed them their own kids first. So we can see a certain, almost like the Book of Acts when the Greek ladies weren't getting fed. Then, as you said, when you brought them, you took care of that. They were eating properly. You brought in education, so you were taking care of their current situation and preparing them for the future as well. Your first kids have grown up. So, and something I was telling you, Simon, I was very excited in the website that it had kids' testimonies and it just said coming soon. So I guess they'll be getting things in there. But I can't wait, so I have to ask you guys, if you were to guess what would be in there, like where have some of the original kids ended up? What's their testimony at this point from the original kids in 2007?
We found that it is good for us to make sure that they are able to go to school, learn, and be kids who can help others in the future. So today, as we speak, we have kids who have gone through to university, and some are becoming civil engineers. They are graduating in a year or two, and some are becoming accountants, and some are becoming other things that they chose, like being what you call purchasing power, like, what do you call it?
Purchasing power, brokers.
No. The procurement.
Okay, procurement.
Yeah.
Well,
They want
that clears it all up. Thank you.
they want to become, they want to learn about procurement, and there are places where they can be employed to do that.
Okay.
And through that, we are encouraging them to think of Abba's house, because we have helped them, and so they need to know that they have been blessed to bless others.
Wow. So here's what I'm understanding from this. And you have these kids who come in from this basic civil war, for lack of a better name. They come in, they're refugees with no future, lucky if they don't starve to death, in what you were able to do, not for obviously all of the children, but as those you choose, take them from that to an education where they go from no future to professional people, and now you encourage them not just to be professional people, but to turn around and be mentors for those coming up now.
Exactly, and that's what they're doing. When they come from university for vacation, they mentor the younger ones to be people who can be relied on as they grow up.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. I'm just going to jump in, interject this little part. Is on your website. For me to find it, I forgot the exact address. It was very simple, Abba's House, Kenya, and then you guys came up. I told you I was a big fan of your site. There's a number of donation things, from everything from easy to donate towards somebody's education, maybe some of the things that you're doing, projects, general care for the kids, but it's all nicely broken down on the site. So I'd encourage people to look there as well. Now, just before, I was going to move off on some other things, but I was going to ask both of you this question. For you, what does an average day at Abba's house look, or if there's any such thing? Maybe they're all different, I don't know. An average day of how you, an average day at Abba's house, and what you do, what's getting done there.
Yeah, when the morning starts, every day we have devotions in the morning, and of course in the evening before they go to bed. But during the day, we prepare them to go to school. Right there is a small school, and the rest were going to a public school, walk to public school. But now we have our own small school that we are developing, and it's coming up very well. So the day starts with going to school, and when they come back, they have chores that they need to perform before they undergo their assignments from school. And so when it is time to do these things, they are also taught how to prepare for the homes, for the rooms they are staying in, to make sure that the rooms look tidy and there are people who can be relied on. So those are the things that they do. But mostly because they are kids. They go to school, come back in the evening, and they do some chores, and then they eat and go to bed.
So, well, that's really something you just added in another thing. Not only do they get a formal education, you're teaching them life skills, just how to get through day to day. Margaret, for you, what does a typical day for you look like at Abba's house?
I wake up early at 5:30, and then we prepare kids with the other ladies, and the children eat their breakfast, and then some of them go to school at 6, especially the grade 8 because they do a little bit of reading in the morning at 7 before they start their classes to prepare them for the exams. And then the rest of the kids, they go to Abba House School. When they are all gone, then at 8, what I do, the workers come in, like the milking guy, he comes in to do the cow's chore. And then there is a school. The teachers report in at 8. And then we have garden people. They come in, and then I try to oversee a little bit. And when they start the job, I come back in the house and have some breakfast.
I'm tired already. It's only breakfast time. Okay.
Yeah, I eat breakfast in the morning. Then at 2, they are done. The people who come to work in at 2, they are done. And at 4:30, the school is over. And then the children comes back and do the chores as he has told you about.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the typical day.
And then, of course, your supper and getting them all into bed. So when would you say your day ends? When is it all over and you guys get to put your feet up for a minute or two?
My day ends at 11 p.m.
So
Yeah.
5:30 to 11. That's a day after. That's quite a busy day. And you brought up something else that we didn't really even talk about yet, was Abba's house doesn't just take care of the children and do the education, all of this. You have, it's somewhat self-contained. You have gardens that you provide a lot of your own food, milk and cows, as you said, that type of thing. And not only for yourselves, but did I understand you, some of that gets shared with the community as well?
And water.
And water, yeah.
There is a borehole that was sunk, and we were giving free water to the neighborhood, but because of electricity price, Kenya has a company that is called Kenya Power, and it has a monopoly that there is no other company that deals with selling electricity, and so they overcharge. They don't care how much they charge you. And sometimes we could pay even 100,000 Kenya shillings a month. And so we thought, yes, we would want to provide water to our people, but it is becoming too much for us. And that's why we are talking about solar system.
Oh, yes. I said, yeah.
To pump water from the ground and leave the electricity to light the buildings, the school and stuff.
Okay, so that's the main purpose for the solar, is for the pump.
Yeah.
So, and in doing that, you can also provide for the community as well.
Yes, exactly.
So we have that going on. How many children do you, I know there's, you, because of the community as well, how many children overall do you impact? How many do come into your sphere of influence?
Oh, right now as we speak, we had 27 in the home where we feed them and clothe them and take them to school. But around the community, the school has really done good because the population has increased from 25 to 200. And so we are great that we are grateful that God has doing things through this school to reach out to the parents and to the kids who want to learn.
Margaret, in your close association with the kids on a daily basis, is there anything that strikes you that you think, oh, this or that happened and recently that comes to mind to you?
It's just, I haven't seen a very serious issue with their little ones. Apart from the young men, usually big boys, they get into trouble most of the times. But young girls, it's just the normal children stuff. It's not like, just a normal. Because they don't steal, they don't do bad stuff. It's just when like they fight in there, you took my pencil, all these.
What is the biggest challenge at Abba's house right now?
The biggest challenge at Abba's house, as we know it, is that these kids need to be fed, clothed, and taken to school. And it's not cheap doing those things. So we are praying that God will provide the needed things to be able to keep on going and to help these kids learn what they're supposed to learn.
And like you say, it costs you in time and effort, kind of blood, sweat, and tears, and it costs you financially. So obviously you need your help. Maybe this ties in. Something else that impressed me with your site was it's very easy for a church or a church group to contact you and say, we want to come over and visit. We want to come over and see your place or whatever. So you've deliberately made it easy, an open door for people to come. What's your main strategy? What's the motive on allowing so many people to come if they want to?
Well, it's just to look at our website and understand what we are involved in. And I would want to assure them that there is a place for them, a work for them to do, because this place needs a lot of help. And if you would want to come and visit Abba's house, it's open for you, and you can do a lot of things there, like interacting with the kids, teaching them, having what you call vocational Bible school, and it can be a good help to them to learn about God through people who come to visit.
One thing before we kind of wrap up, I was going to say, you were telling me something interesting earlier, that in a new project is dealing with community outreach. Can you tell me a bit about the church that you were talking about? Now we have Abba's house, the complex, but now you were talking about building a church in the area.
Yeah, the church is coming up as a result of our strategy to reach out to the community around us, because we have a community that needs to be reached with the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. And the people that we would want to use are, one, the teachers, and of course the kids who come to school, because they are taught the Word of God, and through them they can reach out to their parents. And of course we will be having door to door in this community, whereby we have a week in a term that all of us will be involved in a door to door outreach to sensitize the community there about Jesus.
Now you retired and the pastoral thing a while back, so does this mean you'll be back in the pulpit again?
I do pulpit.
Okay, you're still doing it.
With the kids, yeah. It's not that when I retired in the church, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it with the kids in the home. And also we have a young pastor who is helping me to do that. And
so he'll be involved when you, in your timeline. Can you tell us a little bit when you plan to have your church totally up and running?
Now, as we speak now, it's up to there.
Okay.
With bricks, we build with bricks.
All right.
And so we want to put corrugated iron sheets on the side. After coming up about 2 feet from the ground, we put corrugated iron to the, what do you call it?
To the eaves?
This line here, it's called,
Shutter.
no, shutter is the whole thing. But there is this line that goes around to hold the house.
Okay.
So we are putting the iron sheets, strong ones, to be up to there.
We'll say to the top of the walls, just so we know.
Yeah.
There's our word.
And then after that, we have metal trusses that will hold the roof. And that's what we are planning to do. We want to have it to sit around 200 Kenyan way.
Okay, Kenyan. Now, what's the Kenyan way of sitting around?
Squeeze them in.
Squeeze them in.
We don't have some regulations like here in America that
Yeah.
a room can sit only this number.
Yeah.
There, you can squeeze them in.
If you can get them.
Especially when there is no COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So you have this going on, and that's going to be in the community. Is there any other projects that you have coming up that you want to share about, or?
Yes, we have other projects like the water system that goes underground.
Oh, irrigation.
Yeah, drop irrigation.
Drop irrigation. Okay. That's
So
up there with procurement. You don't get all these big words.
Yeah, so we want to use that to grow crops.
Okay. Yeah.
And also our biggest challenge is how to cool that water from the borehole in order for us to spray it to the crops. And it's coming out well.
That's good. And I think for people over here, they might think, well, that's interesting. I mean, we're sitting here by a lake and water is no issue, but where you are in Kenya, and there's places it's life or death. So water's like liquid gold over there in these areas. Water's the difference literally between life and death. So that's no small thing. That's big. So here's what I have so far. 2007, we started with something that was a great tragedy in the country turns into this incredible ministry where you bring some equality to people. You bring in a way of living in the present, and you give them a future in education, and then give them a purpose in mentorship as well. You reach out not just to the children, but to the community as a whole. Irrigation, water, which is a precious resource there. Electricity, going into solar power and everything, which is a precious resource there. So it sounds like the impact has been really big. What if you were to dream into the future, where would you like to see Abba's house by in the next 10 years, or have you even thought that far ahead?
Yeah, thank you. Abba's house is a place where God can be glorified in so many areas, and especially when we think of bringing in people to learn about agriculture and to learn about beekeeping. Those are the things that we need to encourage people to come and learn. Though we don't have it right now, we have men and women who can help us to make sure that people are learning to keep bees, and also they're learning to cultivate or to have small farms where they can grow crops. As we speak right now in our home, there is a group of bees that come, I don't know, every 6 months we have that swarm of bees coming, and they come to a home that I built there, and they make their place there. We had to spray them, and they come almost after 6 months. We have these things coming. Thank God that they are not wild
Oh, okay.
to attack kids
Yeah.
or people who come. And so we want to have people learn about bees. We want people to learn about preparing their gardens with different plants and stuff. Those are the future things that we would want to see in Abba's house.
Well, that's wonderful. I think one thing that I appreciate a lot is people can have good intentions and want to help somewhere else in the world, but you have your finger on the pulse. You know Kenya, you know what they need, and so if people help and support people like you and Margaret, who are skilled and educated yourself, with your finger on the pulse of the culture, it's the best chance for success, both spiritually and in physical ways. So that's great.
we actually, you have put it right. We don't want to just do some physical things like doing gardens and taking kids to school, but we also need to have that spiritual ministry go hand to hand in Abba's house, that kids are reached with the gospel of Jesus Christ, and also people learn about these things that we're talking about, like planting and beekeeping.
Right. It's practical and for the soul as well, as it came together. So as far as if anybody catches this, they're interested, like I say, the easiest thing for me is finding your site was simply Abba's, as in possessive, Abba's house, Kenya, and then your site comes up quite quickly. Is that the best way for people to find out more?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll encourage them to do that. Any last thoughts from you guys? Anything else you want to share? Or?
Yeah, I would want to ask people who are seeing this or hearing this that they pray for Abba's house, and also not just to pray, see it.
See it.
There are two different things, seeing and listening.
Right.
So see it, and you will be a different person.
And like you say on your website, you make it so easy for someone who, if they didn't even know you, to at least make the connection. I think it's brilliant. I'm a big fan of your site. So thank you for traveling all the way from Kenya just to talk to me. Now you folks, you're visiting your daughters, but you also still have a number of churches in your support system you're yet to see. And you're heading back home in June?
Yes.
Is that right?
June this year, yes.
Well, I'm glad we get a chance to do this, and we'll have a chance to hear a little more from you, Simon. Maybe Margaret, I don't know how you team up, but on Sunday. So we'll look forward to getting some more blanks and some other pictures filled in on what Abba's house is all about. So thank you for spending some time with me this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more thing, encourage your church to come and visit Abba House.
Yes, and we have people that it would do them tremendous good if they could go over and see what you're doing.
They will be changed people.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it because, of course, we've been down that road ourselves. It's been a while, and it's time. It would be wonderful to go back. But at least for now, we can let people know what you're up to, and thank you again.
Welcome.
Right.
Lord, I come, I confess.
Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Where sin runs deep, your grace is more. Where grace is found is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Yes, where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my son to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, and when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. And when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You can watch Word for the Week at canancommunity.org. You can also catch our live stream on Canaan Community's Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app.